Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Jonathan Stein, and today I'm going to show you some Ableton push-to techniques to make a beat with that Dilla style. J Dilla is one of my biggest influences all time. I will never forget the day I listened to his music for the first time. It has changed me ever since. So thank you, J Dilla, for everything you've done. We love you. Also, big shout out to Spin Inc., the James DeWitt Yancey Foundation, and Crazy Noise Productions for putting this together. Alright, so let's get into it. We're going to build this beat from scratch, and we're going to use only Ableton devices and sounds. So everything I'm doing, you could do as well. So let's check this out. I'm starting from scratchy scratch. I got nothing here. I've got a blank MIDI channel. First thing I'm going to do is hit browse, and we're just going to pull up a drum rack. Easy. Cool. So we want to make something very just simple and boom bap. These Dilla drum beats, I mean, a lot of them are live drum breaks, but if they're programmed, then it's just going to be a kick, a snare, and a hat. And it's really just going to be all about the sound of the drums and the feel. So let's go ahead and find a kick. And I did a bit of homework so that I'm not just here browsing forever. But we want dark drums. We want a dark, fluffy kick. Like that. That's pretty damn good. Cool. And then a snare, we want something that kind of sounds like it might be a live drum, a live sample from a break. So this is a little slice of a drum break I'm going to be able to mess with in a sec. I'm going to pull that up onto my second pad. And here we go. Now we just need a hat. So I touch a new pad. And this is pretty good. And once again, we want the hat to sound live. We don't want one of those 808 drum machine hats. We want something that sounds like there's a live drum. Cool. So let's check out what we got. It's a nice combo. We got to trim it, but we're going to do that in a sec. First thing I'm going to do is hold shift. Just change the drum color of my pad so that you get some visual organization. So I need to trim the snare. That's going to be very easy to do. I could zoom in here on the simpler, trim the start. I'm just going to go to main and just change the length of it. Cool. And then I could even smoothen it out with just a little bit of envelope. Alright, cool. So let's get our basic drum beat going. I'm going to touch here in the bottom right region. Each one of these squares represents a measure of music. So I touch there. I've just created one measure of blank MIDI. And I'm just going to start by putting in some snares. So I touch the snare. And if I want to, I could select quarter notes as the rhythmic value, make it really easy. Because I just want snare and 2 and 4 right now. And then I'm going to just find a nice tempo. Now a good starting point for this kind of old school boom bap hip hop, this Dilla style is definitely going to be in the mid 90s. 92 is definitely standard. So yeah, I mean already that kind of feels like we're getting into that zone, you know? So I'm going to work with that for now. And then maybe I'll just put a kick on the downbeat. We'll start with that, you know, we're just kind of easing our way into it, feeling it out. And now we're going to get some hats going. So this style, the hats are very, very simple. You know, it's not syncopated or anything. It's basically just going to be eighth notes. So I'm going to select eighth notes as my rhythm and just tap in eighth notes. All right, cool. I mean, this is the basics, but now we're about to do those tricks to Dillify it. Here we go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create an up-down with the dynamics. So I'm doing this crazy maneuver right here to touch all the upbeats. The second, fourth, sixth, and eighth note. And I'm touching clip. And I'm rolling down the velocity. Just on those, right here, under where it says velocity. So that you get that dynamic swing. It's kind of like a live drummer playing on the hats. And he's doing this up-down wrist molar technique thing. Already it makes it sound way more live. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hold quantize, select eighth note as our rhythm, because we're dealing with hats that are on the eighth note, and we're just going to add a bit of swing, nothing crazy, maybe 15%, I don't know. And now I'm going to touch the hi-hat pad, quantize pad to eighth note 100% with the 15% swing. Maybe a little bit more, I want it to swing a little harder maybe. There we go, that made a difference. Cool, and the last step we're going to do to make these hats feel really, really Dilla is we're going to hold select and then touch the hi-hat pad, and then we'll get all these options here to just to nudge and change the velocity, but we're just going to nudge the entire hi-hat part behind the beat. And you just keep going until it's too much. That feels pretty good, yeah. Now we got that drip. Alright, cool. So now we can add a little bit more kick action. So I'm going to select the kick now. And I'm going to hit double loop. It's going to turn this 1 measure loop into a 2 measure loop. And then I'm just going to add some kicks to the second half. Yeah. And these kick patterns are also not very syncopated. They're just kind of that boom bap thing on the 8th note grid. Maybe we'll double loop again. And this time we will do a bit of syncopation. We'll put one right there. So notice when we go to 16th notes, we're seeing 16th notes scroll by here. Here we go. Check this out. Yeah, that still feels Dilla. I'm good with that. The last thing I'm going to do is add some quiet ghost notes at the end of phrases. So I'm going to hold here, and I'm going to roll down the velocity on just this kick. Pretty low, maybe 40 is a guess. Let's hear how that sounds. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Same thing here at the end. So there we go, we got some Dilla drums. You could tap here. The balance feels pretty good. Maybe I'll just pan this a little bit left and right. Easy. Alright, let's get a sub in here. So I'm going to hit add track and pull up an operator. So these Dilla subs are very, very simple. They're just basically sine waves. They don't have any decay. They just sustain. And they have this soft attack so that they sound very lazy and fluffy. So we want to play something live. I use push as my keyboard. If you've got a keyboard, hell yeah. But you don't want it to feel too drawn in or too MIDI piano roll. You want to be able to just play it live, and it should just be like a simple kind of funk Motown bass line, something like. I'm gonna record that now. Here we go. Boom. So yeah, what makes this Dilla sub a Dilla sub, once again, is the slow attack. I'm using about 100 milliseconds up front so that it's very lazy and vowel-like. And that way, it's kind of doing its own thing from the punch of the kick. You know, it's just kind of messing with its own way of speaking. And that way you could have bass lines that are really independent from the kick. And they're just kind of grooving, you know, doing their own thing. Tight. All right, we're off to a great start. I'm just going to leave that as it is. I like everything that's happening. So now we want to get something like a chord thing. Now, Dilla did a lot of sampling of live musicians and of records. But I want to show a way that we could just do this on push. We're going to pull up a very typical MIDI piano. It's the Ableton stock one. It's pretty solid. And we're going to try and put down something that sounds kind of good, something kind of just like a single chord. Once again, we wanted to pull from Motown and old soul as our influence. Alright, cool. So I could play something like that, but it doesn't really have that old sound. You know, it sounds too MIDI and too clean. So I'm going to hit add device, and I'm going to go to max for live, max effect, and pull up this device called Color. Now, if you don't know about Color, it's an awesome device for getting lo-fi vinyl aesthetics such as pitch wobble, vinyl crackle, hiss, phase, distortion, all these things. And you can download it for free from Ableton.com. It is very, very dope. Highly recommend. So I just put it on this piano, and now all of a sudden check out what we got. Instant vibes. Alright, cool. I'm going to record that. It's simple, but it's kind of hitting. Boom. I just looped that. Here we go. Now in Color, you could definitely mess around quite a lot. I mean, I'm actually pretty happy with how it sounds right off the bat, but there's some really nice options just for the vinyl crackle itself. It's kind of nice. That's really intense. I think I'm going to roll with that. This is pretty hitting. So the last thing we want to add to make this like a very classic Dilla style 4-channel beat is something textural, something just kind of ringing or bubbling or sizzling in the background. And a lot of times these Dilla beats will just have a single sustain note in the background, like maybe an old synthesized, synth or string sound or something that like a farfisa that's just kind of wobbling back there and just kind of ringing. So we're gonna do that. So I'm gonna pull up another operator and I'm immediately make it a sine, a saw wave. Let's make the filter pretty dark. A big part of the style is making sure everything is nice and dark. You don't want it to be bright, you want it to be cool and earthy and chill, So I just want something that will just hold some long notes. And I want it to wobble a little bit. I really have this old farfisa sound in my head, so I'm going to go to the LFO, which right now is routed to the pitch of the oscillators, and have the amount maybe around here, and the rate slow too. Yeah, something like that. I'm going to record that. Here we go. Hell yeah. Cool. Now I'm just going to tuck it in so that it's really chill and quiet. And there you go. We got a Dilla vibe. So that's step one. We just composed a 4-channel Dilla beat. The next step is to arrange it, to make little moments happen and do those Dilla dropouts that he does better than anybody else. So here we go. Let's check some of that out. So my favorite thing about Dilla is the way he uses the delete key. The way a drum or the full beat will just drop out for 2 quarter notes or a beat or a whole measure is what makes it so hip and so cool, and, kind of just catch you off guard every time. So we're about to do that when we arrange this. So my favorite way to do this is to go to your live project and make sure that your global clock is set to quarter note. This will let us do some cool things in this style. And now what we could do in this session view right here is just turn on and off clips. So this is our drums, this is our sub, that's our piano, that's kind of our our held note. And I'm just going to drop out the drums by touching right below them. As long as I'm accurate to a quarter note, it's all good. Here they go, back in. Hell yeah. Even that just had vibes. Piano coming out. This is nice too. Alright, here's a good one too. Since you got quarter notes on, tap here to cue the whole scene. This kind of MPC slice vibe here. All day. Alright, the last trick, which is probably my fave thing that Dilla does, that we're about to do in this clever way. We're about to add just a default track, it doesn't even matter. And we're going to hold solo with our left thumb, and we're going to solo this dummy track so that we could just cut the whole beat out on the spot, like this. Check this out. Hell yeah. Alright, so we're about to work some of that in. The last thing we're going to do, I'm going to go to my master channel, and I'm going to add an auto filter. And we're just going to use this just to get some full-on lo-fi, low-pass action. This kind of thing. Just roll it all down. It gets super dark and chill. Alright, cool. So we got our tools. We got arranging using session view, starting and stopping clips. We could do this MPC style re-trigger thing where we just kind of re-trigger it. We've got the full beat drops by soloing this empty channel here. And we've got our low pass filter on the master. So here we go. About to just do a live take to try and arrange this into a short beat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit shift and record, and that will start to record in arrangement view everything that I perform. By the way, make sure automate is on and it's red so that it'll record any automations you do on the low pass filter. So you ready? Here we go. Let's see how this goes. All right. So those are my tricks for making a Dilla style beat on the Ableton Push, building it up from scratch, messing with it, arranging it. Have fun with that. I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you learned something. Once again, my name is JNTHN STEIN. Thank you for being here and watching. Big shout out to SPIN Inc., the James Dewitt Yancey Foundation, and Crazy Noise Productions for putting this together and inviting me. And thank you, J Dilla, for everything you've given us. We love you.
The J Dilla for the Youth Day. We're here with the one and only Amp Filler.
Yes, sir.
Brother Amp.
Down.
Right off of 7 Mile.
That's right.
Yes, indeed. It's a pleasure being here with you today.
Thank you.
For the J Dilla for the Youth. We have heard your music for years. You're a legend. You have played with some very notable bands, international bands, and you really, from what I've done the research and found, that you really helped start the career for Brother J Dilla. Enough of me. Let's go ahead and get into this interview. So tell me a little bit more about that. The J Dilla interaction, the influences you gave to the brother, and things that you helped set forth as far as in hip hop, neo soul, and a lot of the late 90s, 2000 era. Funk.
So we're in the spot where we always worked. I've been down in this basement since probably 1980 or some shit. But that window used to be a raised window. Raised it up, flip it up, and it was the glass bricks. So the sound, it only had a screen, so the sound would be all through the corner of this area. So my man Derek Matthews was a kid back then. They called him Cricket, and he came by here, heard the music, and stopped me because I was in front of the house about to go to the store get me a brew. So he stopped me and said, you know, I hear y'all making that music down there, you know, we rap, we need some help. Can we come by and holler at you? So they came back. And this was 80s too, you know, probably mid or late 80s. Probably mid 80s. So I told him to come back. He came back with about 8 other guys, and Dilla was one of them. So I was like, you know, I would love to help you kids out, because I was in the passing it forward. A lot of guys older than me was helping me out in my career. But I said I didn't have time because I was working on Mr. Fiddler record at the time, and they said, well, James makes beats, so he could probably do it. So, you know, astonishing enough, he came by and showed me the samples that he wanted to use. So I was interested to see how he's gonna put them together. So I had just got a brand new MPC because I got a demo deal from Electric Records at the time, and I bought a new drum machine. It was the MPC 60, and I started putting his samples together. Putting his samples together is when I realized how much of a genius he was, because not everybody knows how to sample and put all the samples together to make sense. And all the samples that he had made sense. So in the conversation, I was like, how you been putting this stuff together like this? So he had been doing it with cassette tape, cassette player, over and over again. And, you know, record from one cassette to another, a loop, and then record, go back, pause it, rewind, do it again till they got to the end and got it all done. It was amazing, because I mean, I know cats to this day that can't put samples together like that. And that was just putting samples together with beats and loops, just loops. So, so yeah, that's when I realized he was really a genius down here. And so I showed him how to use the MPC, and the MPC was not easy because at the time it was a brand new machine, and it was a manual, but that shit was like Chinese arithmetic. So I had figured it out, and then I showed him, and he was so eager. He was coming over here every day to learn that shit. Every day, just down here, you know, working on it. At first he was just doing loops, so it was easy because he just had drum loops and samples. But once I showed him how to chop up the drum loop and make kicks and snares, hi-hats, that's when I really realized what a genius he was. Because at that point, that's when he fully created. And we worked on just doing different things. I noticed even on tracks that he has now that he gave me, that he used the time signature of 7 bars and shit like that. Because we were always talking about doing shit outside the box. It don't have to be 4 bars. It could be 7 bars. It could be 6 bars. It could be 5 bars. Time signatures can change, 6, 8, shit like that. So he was genius once he figured it out. It took him a minute, but once he figured it out, and a lot of stuff he figured out on his own, a lot of stuff he'd come upstairs and ask me, what's up with, because I let him kind of go through the machine and learn on his own and figure it out, but I also showed him shit, And after a while, he signed with R.J. Rice, because, I had played with a lot of bands, folk bands. I had played with R.J.'s Latest Arrival, with Parliament, Funkadelic, with Was Not Was, Detroit folk bands. Me and RJ was always cool, so I suggested it'd be a good thing for him to go over there and work with RJ, because we had did as much as we could do here, and he wanted a different situation and a bigger situation, better. RJ had a bigger mixing board and more equipment, and I was on the road with P-Funk. So at that point, he was like, John Sadi was getting the mix. He was like, I'm good, you taking too long to hook me up. You taking too long to hook me up, man. We need our shit. They talking about hooking us up. I'm like, okay. We see, I told him, I said, I promised you that I would hook you up when I could, and I got you. So once we did the Lollapalooza tour with George Clinton, Parliament, Funkadelic, Green Day, and then Q-Tip was on that tour also. So we, Ali, Shaheed, the whole band was out with us. So I had been telling them about Dilla, and I finally took him out to meet them, and that's where it started. That's where he got his big career move with the Oma, when Q-Tip finally called him back, because we were always fans of him. So I was a fan of him because all of the jazz shit that they did, and we always had a lot of jazz records down here. So that's how that jumped off with Dilla becoming so famous. It was good. The cats was mad at him for a minute, all the other young cats, because he hadn't hooked me up, and he's riding a new whip down 7 Mile all the time. Shit, So they was like, yeah, man, Dilla should have hooked you out on the ride, hooked you up. Yeah, so obviously they went back and told him the same shit. I never said nothing about it, because my work is on karma and vibration. So what I do is out of the heart. I just wanted to see him put hip-hop on the map. That was my payback.
Right.
So I never asked him for anything in return. I just wanted to see him get on and put Detroit on the map. But it's funny how the universe works, how God works, how good karma works, because my boy KD was working the barbershop. Somebody gave him some zip discs. He brought him over and said, man, make me some beats so you can have them. And I put the zips in the MPC, and they was Dilla's.
Oh, wow.
It was a brown paper bag.
See.
Full of Dilla zips, right? So I called him. I said, yo, man, somebody dropped me this over here the other day from the barbershop. I'm like, this is weird, because I got like 8 or 9 of your zips and some floppies over here that's your shit. He's like, I tell you what, man, somebody broke in my house when I was moving and stole those. So, we've been talking about this for a while. I never hooked you up so you can have them.
Wow.
But for me, at that point, I'm like, shit, I'm broke as hell. What the fuck am I gonna do with these motherfuckers? I can't sell them. So I was like, that's cool. It didn't matter where I was at the time, because I had quit Parliament, Funkadelic, and I was moving forward trying to make some different shit happen. Because I had did 10 years of P-Funk. I was ready for some new shit. So I called Native Instruments, because I noticed they had a brand new machine, and I was checking it out. I had an endorsement with them, but all the sounds was EDM. So I said, okay, I got an idea. I went to California, had a meeting. I said, I I got sounds that I made on the MPC for years, and to beat that, I got Dilla sounds. I said, you don't have any of that in your expansion catalog. You ain't got hip hop on your expansion catalog. So I said, I tell you what, let me make a hip hop expansion for y'all. And they said, well, we normally don't do that, but if you can pull it off as a demo and give us 10 kits, you can do it. I came home and worked, sent the shit back, and that's where the Corner Gardens came from. Because we're in Corner Gardens right now.
That's right.
All outside of Corner Gardens. So
Persian right
Persian dope boys behind us.
And Persian dope girls. My mom went to Persian.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So it was it paid off after all, and Dilla threw the coins right back at me after all of that shit. It's funny how good karma works.
See?
You know, yeah, divine intervention or whatever you want to call it. It's a good brother.
And
that's the way that works.
And big shout out to Native Instruments, because Native Instruments was one of our first sponsors when we first started STEIN Inc.
That's right.
And they really looked out for us, and for them to go ahead and create the sound pack for you.
That's right.
Putting us on the map here in Detroit.
Right. Yeah.
Big shout out to Native Instruments.
Big shout out to Native Instruments for the machine and the love that they gave me with creating the Corner Guards. And afterwards, they let me create the Amplified Funk, was a whole nother area of accomplishment for me, because I had to work hard at that shit. It took a long time. You got to sample all these sounds, but I was used to that. That's what we did.
Right.
That's what we do. Nowadays, kids just want to buy it and turn it on and hit it. You know, they ain't got time to be sampling and tweaking and all that shit, but that's what we do. That's what we did. So that just opened up a whole new chapter for me, and Dilla opened it up for me. So, you know, that's how we reciprocate. When we give, people got to stop holding on to shit, because it's about giving unconditionally with no return expected. And your karma will always come back around. It's not always about the money in this shit. Everybody's like, you should have signed it, man. I would have signed the deal and get the thing like that, man. You just signed that nigga, man. No, he has to be free.
Yes.
He is a creative soul with amazing talents that doesn't need a motherfucker like me holding on to it. Man, I need my 20%. No, that's old school shit that I had to deal with when I was coming up, that I was determined not to deal with anybody else that I deal with like that. Even musicians in my band, we don't work like that. So, and it's funny how things work, because karma brought that right back in divine order. I still get checks from Corner Gardens through working from Dilla and the work that I did. So that's the love that we have for each other. That's the love that he reciprocated right back to me.
And that's why, you know, people as yourself and STEIN Inc. with its group of teachers and professionals within the industry want to give back and give the children access to the equipment. Because look at all this equipment. This is very expensive equipment. And to give J Dilla access to this equipment to be able to use and develop himself and create and make an impression upon the whole world, the whole genre of music. So, you know, it's good to have.
There he is.
What's that?
There he is behind me.
Word up.
Still here, soul, essence, vibrations, still in the studio.
And he's standing here by the Himalayan salt pyramid.
That's right.
See, so we got that Dilla vibration down here.
That's right.
You understand?
That's that's right.
Our children have to have access. And people who care and see the value in our children. And it comes back.
That's right.
It comes back.
That's right.
So, Mr. Fiddler.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for this interview. Thank you for your contribution to hip hop, coming out of Corner Gardens.
Always. Thank you.
Detroit, Michigan, right off of 7 Mile. And do some research on Brother Amp Fiddler. Google the brother. Look him up. Look at his work. Look at his new projects that's coming up. And this is DJ Jungle 313 for STEIN Inc. DJ for the Youth 2021. We'd like to give a big shout out to Ma Dukes,
Space the Place,
James DeWitt, Yancey Foundation, DJ Butter, Crazy Noise Production,
Illa J,
all the producers coming out of Kona Gardens.
Yeah, Frankie Dank.
Go ahead and give you shout outs to you.
That's right. All our people. Much love, yes.
All our people, much love. Yeah, so thank you once again, Brother Amp.
Peace and love, y'all.
It was a pleasure. Peace. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Hey yo, this is DJ Jungle, 313 Executive Director of STEIN Inc. We got a special treat for y'all. I got Brother Amp Fiddler, and we right here.
That's right.
With that MPC loaded up with some heat. He told me after the interview that he had some MPC work from J Dilla, and we had to present it. So go ahead, Amp. You can go ahead and fire it up.
So you know, I always like to show people this because it's how intricate Dilla was about creating shit. So if you see the track 1 is a rodeo right there. It says rodeo, which means it's a rose, and you saw that. So you get that sound, and then you got another track that's about the same. You got a bass, and then you got another rose. Right. So what he did was all these. He's doing some weird shit right now. I don't know why, but I think it's the MIDI with something. But anyway. All those sounds are individual sounds that make up the chords if you use a player. You know, if you use a player chord, I got the arpeggio going on that, so it's not going to do it. But anyway, it came out at the end, and each one of these notes are a different chord. So that's the first one right there. That's the second one. That's the third one. It's all individual notes. I know it's probably look like a bunch of shit to people, but actually that's all the notes that he played individually to create the chords to play. But see, it's doing something weird today, so I don't know what's happening. So I'm gonna reload it. Give me a minute. So we was talking about the Dilla zips that I have, and I still got them. I just transferred them over to the new MPC. Now, I get a new MPC all the time. I wish I had my MPC 60, but I got the MPC X. Because it's the future right here. I'm into the future. The past is the past. I'm living in the future. So we got the Rhodes that he, you know, normally I would play all the chords together, but Dilla was such a genius. He played one note at a time. Right, that's the first one. There go the bass. That's the second note. That's the third note. That's the fourth note. And all that comes out to be this. That's genius. I'm gonna show you some more. Got the Hancock beat. Y'all know this one already, but I'm not gonna tell you, but I'm just gonna let you see what it is. There's a sample right there, the kicks, the hi-hats, the hi-hats, the hi-hats, the hi-hats. Now that's a beautiful track. It's beautiful when Herbie Hancock made it, but Dilla made it even different. How many bars is it? How many bars? 7 bars. I think thinking they're trying to be innovative. Do some next shit. Try 7 bars. I like doing that. That's just technology. Y'all. We celebrate the band, the great James Dilla. Thanks to my Dukes for bringing that brother over and letting him work with me, because it wasn't for her. He would tender bears to come over here and hang out like that. So.
This is Spinning, DJ Jungle 313. J Dilla for the Youth Day. Here with the legendary Amp Fiddler. This is how important education is for the children. Give them access.
Come on, man.
Can change their lives.
The future is in your hands.
Thank you, Brother Amp.
You're welcome.
Peace.
In 2012, I started going to different DJ schools in New York and Chicago that passed along these traditions in DJing to the youth. And they was teaching the community these skill sets. And when I seen a young man said, this actually saved my life, I'm glad that Dubspot is here. I said, I got to start something like this in Detroit. So Spin Inc. was born from that, because in Detroit, a lot of our music programs are non-existent, but that had to be corrected, because a lot of creativity is lost because of the lack of access. We wanted to give our children in our community access to a lot of the equipment that they may not be able to afford, but yet still be able to benefit and create music that can actually impact our community and impact other communities internationally. So over the last 5 years, we've been hosting classes at Detroit Institute of Music Education. We have been at other different locations creating after-school programs and in-school programming to teach children a different way to understand and listen to music.